Now available in paperback and e-readers. Spellbound, a darker shade of black. Get your copy today at your favorite online bookseller. There was a tragic mass shooting which took place at an Arlington, Texas high school. Now, your 18-year-old Timothy George Simpkins is alleged to have shot and wounded 4 people in an incident which took place in a classroom after he got into a fight at Timberview High School. Now, according to reports, your Timothy George Simpkins had been bullied by people in the school for an extended period of time, and he felt like he was getting no sort of recourse from the faculty at that school, and things escalated to a point where he wound up bringing a firearm to school to finally deal with these bullies. Now, your law enforcement sees this as an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of this tragic series of events, sadly, it fits right in line with the pattern and profile I talk about regarding beta males in my book, The Man Crisis. And your Timothy George Simpkins was a boy growing to become a man in crisis because no one took a minute to give him the support that he needed as he was dealing with this crisis he was having with these bullies. Now, because this boy felt like he had no support system from anybody in the school or anybody in his family, this is what led to him simmering and boiling in anger and becoming more and more frustrated every day as related to trying to deal with these bullies who were allegedly harassing him because he was wearing nice clothes and because he was driving a nice car. Now, it's clear to me that these bullies were jealous of Timothy George Simpkins' life, and they were jealous of the fact that he was living very well, and because he was living a lifestyle that they did not want to see him have, they sought to find ways to try to make him feel like he was less than, and that's what this bullying was all about, trying to devalue Timothy George Simpkins so that he would feel worthless, and that's what led to this boy, unfortunately, winding up exploding in this rage where he took a firearm to school in an effort to defend himself from these bullies. Now, again, as somebody who has been bullied, I can tell you that clearly the parents and the faculty were out to lunch as related to this boy, and they sadly did not see that they needed to have an intervention on the part of this young man. Now, as somebody who has been bullied, I can tell you that the faster you intervene on your kid's behalf, the faster you can solve this problem. And one of the problems I saw with the Simpkins family was just bringing this boy to a public school, because if you are doing economically well, I can tell you from personal experience, do not send your young son to a public school, because inside of that public school is a toxic environment filled with predators, and these predators are going to look to try to destroy your son, all because he is different from the people who are miserable, and what they want to do is make him miserable in their company. Because what these kind of bullies try to do is when they see you wearing nice clothes or driving a nice car, is they want to talk about the stuff that you don't have, and they want to go out here and talk about things like you not having the right stuff and things like that, because I've run into that myself. When I would go to school wearing nice clothes and nice sneakers, they would always try to bully me, talking about girlfriends and things like that. And I believe the same thing was going on, sadly, with Timothy Simpkins. He was dealing with bullies who were devaluing him, and eventually it got to a point where he just got tired of it because he felt like he had nobody on his side, and because he felt like he had nobody on his side, this is what led to him participating in this extreme act of violence. But if he had had a support system of some kind, I believe that this young man would have been in a better place, because I believe he desperately needed a support system at home. And if he had a support system at home of healthy parents, they would have never sent this young man to a toxic environment like a public school. No, when a parent truly cares about their son, the first place they're going to send their son is a private school, because inside of a private school, a boy can go into an environment where he has a support system and there is a measure of accountability, because if a boy is being abused in that kind of environment, that parent can then withdraw their son from that toxic environment and then take him to another school. And that's something that gives many of those people inside of that school incentive to look out for that boy, because they know that they want to get that tuition money. Moreover, they want to be able to protect their reputation as a institution of learning. But a public school is again a very, very hostile environment to children who are coming from households where they are doing well. And you have to deal with a lot of more dangerous types of beta males who, again, become extremely jealous, and they look to devalue and bully young men who are trying to go somewhere, and they'll try to do things like saying that, oh, you're acting white, you're dressing white, or they'll try to put hands on you during school, or they'll participate in passive-aggressive behaviors like isolating you, or isolating you socially, or they'll just do things like throw paper balls at you. And I've even had book bags thrown at me by people who were just expressing their contempt for me. So I know where this boy was coming from as related to what he was dealing with, because I dealt with it myself in places like IS 148 in the Bronx and Park West High School in Manhattan. So I know where this young man is coming from as related to being in crisis, and I know the crisis he was dealing with. And sadly, because he had no sort of physical support from his family, no spiritual support from God, he wound up participating in this extreme act of violence. And sadly, it's his life that's the one that's going to suffer as a result, because all of those three people who were harmed, those three bullies, they're going to go on with their lives inside of right as normal, and they're going to sit there and think they've gotten over on this young man, as he is inside of a juvenile facility, and if he's 18, he may be even charged as an adult. So he may wind up inside of county jails and the penitentiary with a record as a result of this. And as he's sadly inside of these facilities and having to try to fight for his life, because once you get inside of a place like the criminal justice system and you're inside of the county jails or the prisons, you are fighting to protect yourself so that you won't wind up being beaten up and traded for ramen noodles, traded for Little Debbie snack cakes, traded for Fritos chips and cups of coffee and cans of soda. I mean, this young man, sadly, his life is on a bad trajectory, all because he had nobody there to give him a minute to help him understand that while he is feeling about this situation, he cannot act on those feelings impulsively, because when you act on those feelings impulsively, it can practically destroy your life. Now, I know where this young man was, because I was there myself at 16 years old, and I remember being at 16 years old just being fed up with people bullying and harassing me because I didn't have a girlfriend, and people wanting to start stuff with me, all because I didn't have a girlfriend. And I got so tired of it that I prayed to God to change my life for the better. And as frustrated as I was, God finally came through in January of 1990, and I changed schools. And when I changed schools, it changed my whole life. So a lot of these young men out here in crisis, they have to realize that you cannot stay in an environment with bullies. No, sometimes you cannot fight your way out of it. You just have to walk away from that toxic school and you have to walk away from these toxic people. And many parents need to understand that if your child is being bullied, the only option you have is to pull your child out of that school, because that environment is not conducive to your child's mental health. It is not conducive to your child's mental state. And what will happen is you will have a child in crisis, and that child in crisis is going to explode in a rage. And when they explode in a rage, sadly, it may wind up leading to violence like this, because when a child feels like they have nobody there to care for them, feels like they have nobody there to support them, and feels like there's nobody there to look out for them, what they do is they go to these kinds of extremes. And sadly, when they go to these kind of extremes, it's them that lose in the end, because sadly, they wind up becoming a part of the criminal justice system when they did not need to wind up becoming a part of the criminal justice system. No, if people had given these children the justice that they needed by intervening on their behalf, then they would be able to maintain the intangible of their freedom. But this is what happens when you have parents who are negligent as related to a child being in crisis, because a lot of times you don't really know the signs of bullying. But as somebody, again, who has been bullied, I can tell you that this poor boy had suffered as related to this bullying. And I go in depth on this in my novel Spellbound as related to the signs of bullying. And I also talk about it in many other books as well. So this is sadly a tragic case of a boy in crisis who is going to become a man in crisis, because as he's put through this criminal justice system, he's the one who suffers in the end. And these guys who bullied him, after they recover from their wounds, they're going to go looking to start trouble with somebody else. And that's the sad part of this story, is that this whole situation in Timberview High School could have been diffused had people taken the bullying that went on with this boy seriously, and had people just sat there and understood that yes, this boy may have nice things, but that is not a right for you to put your hands on someone. That is something people really don't understand about young men out here, is that you don't, just because you don't like the way somebody dresses, somebody talks, or somebody acts, you do not have a right to put your hands on that individual. And you need, if you have an issue with somebody, then you just don't know how to deal with it, you need to just leave that person alone, and you need to go on about your business. That is something I, again, had to deal with for years in junior high school and high school. And one of the reasons why I even walked away from college to a point, because I just got tired of the bullying and harassing, and I got tired of guys getting to the point where they thought it was okay to put hands on me. So I know where this young man is coming from, and I know what would lead to this situation kind of escalating, because so many people in academia, especially faculty and stuff, are very apathetic and indifferent to those who have been bullied. And many parents just do not know the warning signs. But as somebody who does know the warning signs, that's one of the reasons why I write books like The Man Crisis, and that's one of the reasons why I even put it in a fictional story called Spellbound about dealing with bullying, because I know how this whole type of bullying situation can turn into a situation where a boy can wind up losing his freedom and losing his chance to start his life. Now, if you want to learn more about how to deal with these kind of situations, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find it on Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. And if you want to get a better understanding of bullying from a fictional standpoint, you can pick up my novel Spellbound on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find it on Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess, featuring a bonus pin-up and the other 2 books in the Cyber Goddess saga at online bookstores everywhere today.